And it's like when you're integrated into a system that never cared to understand you and never cared to fit you in properly, you're gonna always be mistreated. You're gonna always be viewed as the problem within a society because you was never given a chance to become a member of society in a way that people will respect you, in a way that people will treat you with dignity. It's your boy Online Davo, and we back with a video. We got a video by David Hoffman, Growing Up with Racism, a Personal Story. Now, you know we rock with David Hoffman over here. He always have the stories and the interviews from the 60s and 70s and stuff like that. And it's important for us to, to hear from the words of people that lived through those times. Because as we know, people are trying to turn back the clock and make it seem like everything was peaches and cream. But we know that it wasn't, right? But it's always good to be reminded that the people that experienced it and lived through it are still alive today. So we have a video in an interview here from Rodger Wilkins, who was a prominent leader during the civil rights movement. I think he was an assistant attorney during the Johnson administration. He done put a lot of work in to advance the black community. So we're going to hear his own personal story and what he experienced being someone of, prominence during that time and how he was treated by the people around him. Come on, let's get right into it.
I used to be a runner in high school and college, and in my late 30s, I began to jog. Early wave of joggers, one of the most foolish things I ever did. And I was jogging near my house in Washington. I was an assistant attorney general of the United States, best friend of the attorney general of the United States. And I was jogging near my house. And a police came by. Fortunately, I had my Justice Department credentials in my hip pocket. Boy! I kept on jogging. My hair was beginning to gray, and I'm jogging along. Boy! I keep on jogging. Hey, you boy! Spotlight on me. Boy, you better stop! I figured I better stop. And so I stop, and two white cops get out, slam me up against a wall, spread my legs, and spray my legs hit me pretty hard between the legs, and it hurt very much. I kept saying, look in my back pocket, reach in my back pocket. Boy, you robbed a store. Boy this, boy that, boy. They pulled out this thing, and it was a nice leather thing that said I was a Justice Department official. Oh, they melted.
Uh-oh.
Oh, you look just like, we had a call, and you just like, it fits you too, sir, blah, 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 blah. Well, of course, I called the police chief the minute I got home, and those guys were suspended and disciplined.
Right.
If I had had no credentials in my pocket, I would have been in jail that night.
Oh, yeah.
Middle class, 37-year-old father of 2 children, doing nothing more than jogging.
It's crazy.
And that's not the only time it happened to me. Well, if it would happen to me, imagine what would happen to a 17-year-old black kid in the inner city.
Crazy.
The man speaking.
That's crazy too, because it's like, first off, you already coming out and talking about some boy. Nigga, you don't see the grays in my head? You know damn well I ain't no little boy. So that lets you know it's not no regular vernacular. That's their way of trying to demean you. They calling you boy. Nigga, I ain't your boy. What's wrong with you? And then it's like you said, bro, the way they tried to violate him before they pulled out that official document that let him know that, hey, I'm just not anybody. They was going to do him so bad. So bad. Come on.
Is Rodger Wilkins. I'm David Hoffman, and I filmed this interview with Rodger back in 1989. And this 72-year-old man is telling me of his experiences growing up in the 1940s and 1950s and 1960s.
Damn.
He had a really tough time. Although he came from a middle-class family, became a lawyer, actually won a Pulitzer Prize, working for the Washington Post as a journalist with Bob Woodward and Carl Bernstein, the famous Watergate investigation. So I'm interviewing Rodger in 1989, and we really hit it off. He was ready to talk, and I was ready to ask. And I said to him, be yourself. Just let me know what you felt, what you saw, and think about it in terms of future generations. He had a daughter, Elizabeth, and he said, I'm going to talk like I'm talking to her grandchildren. So here we are in the present with all that's going on in the country right now, the racial animosity, stuff in the streets, the government, the desire to make things better. And I'm thinking of Rodger. He died at 74 of dementia, and he was speaking to me at that time for the future. We're in the future.
Damn.
I hope you enjoy or find provocative what Rodger had to say.
In the early 50s, America was a horribly segregated country. It was as if the whole South was a rotten fruit that everybody could smell. There were a couple of notorious lynchings in Mississippi. A black kid named Emmett Till whistled at a white woman. They killed him. A black guy named Mac Charles Parker, who was accused of having raped a white woman, taken out of jail, killed, thrown in the river. I think both those guys were thrown in the river. Blacks were routinely pulled out of cars and beaten up by state troopers all throughout the South. Black poverty was just horrible. It was being shown in magazines. And then the Supreme Court decided that it was unconstitutional for states to run segregated school systems. And little cute, clean, starched black kids began to show up on people's television screens, being walked to school by their parents, and screamed at by white people. The contrast could not have been more stark. The white people who were screaming were, the caricature is the people, working class people,
Right.
Not terribly clean. Some of them obese, faces distorted with anger, screaming obscenities at 6, 7-year-old
It's crazy.
children. Well, television was new, everybody was glued to it.
And that's crazy too, because it really shows you that they would try to demonize you for bettering yourself, and they also demonize you for falling into whatever environmental factors that were put into place. You get what I'm saying? So, okay, say you grow up in an impoverished neighborhood and you do things that someone in poverty would do to survive. They're going to demonize you for that. Okay, boom. You know what? We're going to end segregation. We're going to try to integrate society, try to get some fair education to these black kids. No, they can't get on education. They're going to mess up the education system for my kids. They're literally just children. Just children. You know what I'm saying? But they don't see that, though. Or some of them still don't see it. You know what I'm saying? Now it's a little better, but now they change the ways that they do it. We're still kind of segregated. You feel me? But it's like, it's crazy because off an accusation, you could lose your life. You could have lost your life off an accusation. That's how serious it was. That's how deep it was. Cop pull you over, beat the shit out of you, go on about your day, boy. You ain't, what? Suing? Hey, man, I'm trying to tell you, don't let these people convince you or trick you that times were just so better back then just because black families were able to stay together, bro. Don't let them trick you for that. Yes, I'm all for the black family unit also. But, nigga, I'd rather not get beat in the street just off of being black also. You feel me? So it's like, come on, man. That's why you gotta watch videos like this so you can hear someone who was living through the 40s, 50s, and 60s, who was living through it, letting you know how serious it got. Come on, man. Talk to him, Rodger.
That was one. 2, the country had fought this fight for democracy. Blacks felt it, whites felt it, and blacks were restless. Sitting on the back of the bus, being relegated to the upper floor of a theater, and sometimes to only one row of a theater. Going to a gas station when your bladder was full and not knowing whether you'd be permitted to use the bathroom. Having white people be just as rude to you as they chose to be, giving you absolutely no respect. not being able to try on clothes that you bought at stores, all of that stuff. And worse was going on. And Northerners knew it, and they had tried kind of to avoid it. But when blacks started taking their children to school, the North could no longer avoid the stinking, rotting fruit. And the South was represented by some of the most unattractive people in the Congress. Senator Theodore G. Bilbo of Mississippi was just an awful human being. And there were a lot of Southerners in the House who just spewed bile. And so the North couldn't see it anymore. And blacks began to get hope from the fact that the Supreme Court had finally said, and blacks interpreted this 54 decision to mean the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution include us. Just as we've always said, all God's children are equal. And so we started to move. And white people thought that's right, and a lot of white people joined in.
You sound like you're talking about sort of the continuation of the Civil War, the way you describe it, or it's like
the segregation, and the legalized oppression of black people was a continuation by the white South of the Civil War. That's exactly what it was. It was taking out on black people their venom against the white Northerners, and saying, you may think that you took our way of life away from us, but you're wrong, and your foolish social theories are wrong too. So it was a continuation of the Civil War, there's no question about it.
And that's what happens that's why I say they should have did those people that was part of the Confederacy were traitors to the United States of America. They should have been treated accordingly. When you let that type of mindset fester within a country and turn a blind eye to it, this is what you get in the current day. People still believe in the same shit. You got to stomp that shit out. You got to eradicate it, bro. You know what I'm saying? But that should let you know that racism was only as bad in America as people made it out to be. And I say that in the sense of, if society acts like racism doesn't exist, most people don't act like racism doesn't exist. You know what I'm saying? And the ones that's really awake and the ones that's keeping their eyes and ears to the streets, they understand that this shit is still alive and well. But people are just hiding it better. People are hiding it behind little stats and statistics. You know what I'm saying? People are hiding it behind dog whistles, you know? But that same hatred, that same vitriol, that same, contempt is still present in society. We see it through media, we see it through what gets pushed and what doesn't get pushed. And it's crazy. Yeah, there's also some outside sources that's doing it also. They got all type of psyops from different countries on social media to stir up the pot in America. We see it all the time. Motherfuckers in Indonesia, Russia, Nigeria, they running these alt accounts doing what they could do to make you hate your fellow countrymen. But I would sit here and lie and act like some of my fellow countrymen don't hate me because I'm black. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, sometimes I feel like when you black, bro, you're getting attacked on all fronts, and the only people you can rely on is your people. And then the thing is, when you rely on your people, you gotta hope that they not no raccoon. So it's crazy, man. Come on.
I want to ask you about some very basic concepts as they were perceived then. Integration. What did integration mean?
Well, integration had another connotation that was, it was squeezed the same way communism squeezed economics out of us. You couldn't say that you wanted integration to be all mixed up because the white Southerners kept on saying, well, all I want to do is sleep with white women.
Race mixing is communism? What?
Mixed up because the white Southerners kept on saying, well, all I want to do is sleep with white women. They say, no, we don't want to sleep with white women. Keep your darn women. They're not that cute anyway. We don't want them. What we want is good educations for our
That's
children.
All.
And I think that integration for us meant freedom from oppression. I don't think that black people really thought of joining the country club or this or that. They thought, get rid of this humiliation. First of all, get some equal education for our children. That everybody knew. That was a goal. Get equal education because that's our future. But don't tell me I can't go to the bathroom anymore. Don't tell me I can't sit anywhere on the bus or in the theater. Don't tell me that. It's just too terrible. I don't think it was a positive thing. I just think it was get rid of all of this oppression. I mean, you cannot understand how horrible it was to have to contemplate a trip south. And the third thing was freedom from fear of being injured in the South.
Yeah.
But a trip to the South for a Northerner was fraught with peril because you were worried that you run out of gas and some person would be violent to you and you have no recourse to the law because the law was totally unfair.
It's crazy.
And then once you got to the town where you were going to be, if you're wise, you had made arrangements to stay with friends because you couldn't stay at the local hotel. And there was often no public place to eat.
Crazy.
Well, we want to be rid of all of that stuff. I think if I thought about it, I would have thought that white people's bad views of black people are based on ignorance.
Ignorance.
And when we get together, they will cease to be ignorant about us, and the scales will fall from their eyes, and they will begin to be decent. That's what I thought. I was pretty naive, but that's what I thought.
Damn. He said he thought if we live amongst white people, they will understand that their thought process and the way they were taught growing up would be broken. Their worldview would be broken, and they will understand that we may be black, but we're also human just like you. He said he was naive. Damn. And you know what's crazy too? I think that there's some of us that's still naive to this day. I know, I may be one of them. I may be one of them that's like, man, if we could just not even show them, but like for society to understand it's that we're being pinned against each other in the sense, well, not even say against each other. Y'all have been being pinned against us this whole time. And it's like, yeah, I know it's hard to come to terms with that you've been lied your whole life by about a certain group of people, but you have. You know what I'm saying? You're no more educated than us. You know what I'm saying? You just have more opportunity. You feel me? And there's nothing wrong. There is something wrong with that. You have more opportunity than us just because you're white. But there's nothing wrong with admitting that. You feel me? Nothing wrong with admitting that and realizing your privilege and then taking steps to, better the situation for yourself and for your future kids. You get what I'm saying? And it's crazy because all my ancestors ever wanted was respect. And they get treated fairly from a country that they fought and literally died for. A country that they helped get a head start compared to all the other countries in the world. You know what I'm saying? Your business would be very profitable too if you had free labor. You feel me? So it's like, damn, bro. And what, this video took place in 1989 or something along those lines? I'm telling you, bro. The more that time changed, the more things stay the same. Sheesh.
I think that black people were always super Americans. We had to believe in America more than other people did in order to have any hope, in order to live, in order not to go crazy. We had to believe that the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments meant something, and that the Declaration of Independence, though written by a slave owner, did mean the full scope of the words.
That's crazy, huh?
So once we had the opportunity to make it work, we went full bore at it. And besides, it had this terrible itch of the humiliation in our daily lives that we wanted to get rid of. But we also had something else, and that was a very powerful faith in the decency of white people. I no longer have that faith, but we had it then. And that was, if we can only demonstrate to white people how rotten this system is, most of them will change, and the country will change very rapidly. I think that gave us our discipline, and that faith, both in the country and in the decency of white people. White people owned everything.
Damn. Shit. Damn, Mr. Rodger, you cooking right now. And that's an interesting point. We had to have faith in America to not go crazy. Damn, I mean, yeah, because you can see now some of the people that's like, that's woke and they paying attention to the stuff that's going on. It's kind of hard not to be a little pessimistic about what's going on in society, man. You know what I'm saying? You see all this stuff being overturned. You see the apathy that people have towards, politics and the decisions they make for the people they vote for and how it affects you personally. You see how people are so blase about your freedoms and your rights that it could have you feeling a certain way. It can have you looking at people differently. I understand it completely because, you're literally voting to take away my right. You know what I'm saying? And like he said, we had to believe in the government. We had to believe that the civil rights and that, that these people are being lied to. Maybe they're just being lied to and they're being misguided. And if they're able to see how idiotic this system is and how it hurts us all if we're treated this way, they would change. But I think, black people didn't account for how many white people were fine with having those benefits over black people. They were able to, to dissociate the type of stuff they stood for politically and the type of stuff they stood for, when it comes to their ideologies and stuff like that. They was able to separate that from you being a human being, And they might have been like, damn, I got a cousin that's racist, I got a cousin that's in a Ku Klux Klan, but I wouldn't go kill a black person, so I'm doing something right? Like, that's enough for me. Like, even though I can go kill someone, even though I can go lynch someone, I won't do it because that's not something I would do. But you're also not checking the people that would do it. You know what I'm saying? You get what I'm saying? So it's like, I don't know, man. I don't know. If you feel like America's doomed and this country's cooked, I'm not even mad that you feel that way. You feel me? That doesn't make you less of a patriot than someone who believes that, America could do no wrong. You feel me? If anything, I think that you would be more of a patriot because at least you're being honest. At least you are able to see this country for what it is and what it's always been, which is a country built off of racism and, exploitation and the mistreatments of minority people, especially black people. So that's crazy.
They owned the means of. They owned all the payrolls, and they owned all the cops. And they owned all the criminal courts, and ownership of the country is a great enforcer. Mm-hmm. Black person get out of line, he's deemed crazy and he's dealt with. Sometimes he's killed. Sometimes he's sued for. He's prosecuted for tax evasion. Sometimes he's fired. Black people knew. I mean, and earlier, of course, you got killed or whipped in slavery times.
Right.
So black people knew that it was very dangerous to express anger to white people and to tell white people how they felt and how stupid they thought white people were. And so the old black comedian once said, boss asked me what the weather's like, I look in his face before I look outside. I mean, and that kind of summed up the universe, the emotional universe within which black people had to operate. So
Damn.
It was.
Imagine you can't even tell the truth to someone because they have the ability to do some shit to you that you can't do to them. And most likely they'll better get away with it. So you ain't gonna get no type of justice. You may be able to get you a march depending on how big the story is, but you may be the 5th black person that got beat that week in whatever county you in. I'm just keeping it real. I'm just calling it straight. That's how we gotta start putting shit into terms, okay? You may have been the 5th person to get beat that week, you know what I'm saying? And the cops would have done nothing. That's how crazy and reckless it was back then. You feel me? So when these people get on here and act like this country has been always so welcoming and we only had a few mishaps, a few little hurdles along the way to greatness, they lying to you, bro. They lying to you. They don't want, man, they're not finna show you this in school. Why would they? You know what I'm saying? This is a man that you know, a big part of his life is fighting for the civil rights of black people and, you know, of society and helping push forward a positive agenda, you know? And as you can see, he was living through that stuff. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, damn, bro. These people are still alive. Don't forget that.
It wasn't until the 50s and the 60s gave black people a little elbow room in the society that we could begin to express what was really in us and express our true outrage at this horrendous wrong, continuing wrong that had been done to us over 360 years. Which makes Frederick Douglass all the more astonishing. He made a 4th of July oration in 1852 when there was still slavery. And he said, "What is your 4th of July? A hypocrisy and a mockery." Black guy saying it in 1852, unbelievable. If I said something in 67 when I was 35 years old, it had antecedents back in that segregated schoolhouse, you know. Had antecedents when people threw stones at me when I rode to school. Spit great gobs of gooey, nasty spit on my bicycle seat. So that, and it probably had also immediate stimuli, but the passion that went into what I might have said in 67 had a depth that was as deep as my entire being. Ralph Ellison wrote a great American novel called The Invisible Man. One of the great indignities that black people suffered was being invisible. White people not seeing them, or as Ellison said, what you see is something on the fringe of me, or what you see is a figment of your imagination, but you refuse to see me. What those people were saying, you're doing all this for the South, now see me.
Ooh, let me rewind that real quick. That brother was, what did he say?
Me, or what you see is a figment of your imagination, but you refuse to see me. What those people were saying, you're doing all this for the South, now see me. Here I am, right in the middle of New York, right in the middle of Chicago. See me, do something. I need a job, I need a better school, I need something. And this is awful. So what I saw, despite the destruction, I was pleased because the invisible ghetto dweller was becoming visible. America finally was being forced to confront the fact that the maimed and the wounded from oppression were in the inner cities, and something had to be done about their plight. People didn't talk about police-community relations, and there weren't not very many integrated police forces, and the ones that had them had blacks at the lower end of the totem pole. And blacks saw the police as occupying armies. And police were insensitive and thought that their job was to contain the niggers, whip heads.
Ooh. It feel like it, don't it? That's what it definitely, hey, if you grew up in the hood or something like that, unless you just had a few cool little police officers, it kind of did feel like y'all just here to make sure nothing get out of, you're not here to necessarily help. You know what I'm saying? You're not being preventative, you're being reactionary. You know, and I think that's also one of the things when it comes to police officers that people don't understand is that they don't necessarily stop violence. They don't necessarily stop crime from happening. But, you know, they're supposed to be able to catch the crime that does happen. You know, the only way not the only way, but one of the ways to stop crime from happening is to have people that have stuff to lose. If you have nothing to lose, doing a year in jail, 2 years in jail ain't shit. You know what I'm saying? That shit gonna fly by if you live in that type of lifestyle, you know, but you got to give people like that opportunities and pathways out that aren't limited to a few people within the community. You get what I'm saying? And there's definitely a personal responsibility aspect to it. Of look, no one's forced you to commit these crimes. That's on you. And hey, look, you do the crime, you do the time. But I can also understand that there's social things that's put in place that's gonna have people commit these crimes more often than not. You get what I'm saying? I keep saying you get what I'm saying, but sometimes people don't get what I be saying.
And many of the riots around the country were triggered by a incident. The one in Harlem was a cop shot a kid. One in Detroit, cop shot a kid. One in Watts, cop shot a kid. Black power means to me when I sit now in the 1989 and have my 60-year-old black child on my lap and her little short afro, and I nuzzle my face in her hair and I say, "Oh, I love your hair. It is so wonderful. And your brown skin is so pretty." That's a lot of what black power left for me. It was a rejection. It was a fundamental rejection of all those rotten lies that people had told us all this time about us. That my wide nose and my thick lips and my kinky hair made me inferior.
And you know what's crazy, Mr. Rodger Wilkins? In the year of 2026, they trying to copy those features. They trying to get the big lips, and if they're a woman, they're trying to get the bigger butt, the thicker thighs that other people would call fat. You know what I'm saying? They would say that person's fat, but they trying to get it themselves now. Ain't that something? So, but that could be attributed to capitalism and the ingrained attitude towards black people, in the sense of if a black person is doing it, it's deemed as negative. But if that same feature is on someone of a different ethnicity, then it's the greatest thing since sliced bread. You know what I'm saying? It's the best thing that ever happened since Jesus turned water into wine. You feel me? So I get it, bro. I get it. And I can understand that, bro. Embrace yourself. Embrace being black. Embrace being black and beautiful. Embrace your hair. Your shit grow differently for a reason. You know what I'm saying? Your hair wasn't meant to look the way their hair was. You know what I'm saying? Don't let them demonize the way that you're naturally supposed to look. And it's crazy that they was doing that, but also taking those same features to make money off of it. But we know how the system works.
There is no way that my 30-year-old daughter can be as beautiful as Michelle Pfeiffer. It's outrageous. But we believed it. We believed it because they had the culture. They had the power. They made the movie shows. And they put Rita Hayworth on the cover of Life magazine instead of Lena Horne or some other black woman who had blacker features than that. They were the ones who made us the buffoons and the studs and the mammies, They were the ones who told us we were slow and couldn't talk right and all the rest of it. And the worst thing you can do to a human being is to make her or him believe he doesn't count.
Ooh, damn. He cooking. The worst thing you could do to a human being is to make them believe that they do not count. And we can see that all across society. You feel me? We already know all the stuff that goes on with, damn, where's this young lady father at? You know what I'm saying? Where's this young man's father at? Where's this young lady mother at? Little shit like that, or usual suspects and shit like that. It's a conditioning thing of they want you to view yourself how they view you. They want you to view yourself as a thug, as a YN, as someone who isn't going to be able to amount to the same things their kids will amount to because of what? Is that right? You feel me? Because who says that your kid is naturally smarter than my kid? Who says your kid deserves to go to college and my kid don't deserve to go to college? You feel me? And it's like when you're integrated into a system that never cared to understand you and never cared to fit you in properly, You're gonna always be mistreated. You're gonna always be viewed as the problem within a society because you was never given a chance to become a member of society in a way that people will respect you, in a way that people will treat you with dignity. You know, that's just like when someone invites you out. It's different when someone say, "Hey, you want to come with me to the game," compared to when someone says, "If you want to come to the game, you can." That's a totally different question, a totally different interaction, a totally different attitude towards you. So now relate that to America and how America then treated black people. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, it's so much stuff, bro. It's so much stuff. Come on.
Can't do anything. And of all the things that, all the offenses that were done to me and other people about which I get angry, that's the one that just drives me crazy. I mean, it's not abstract to me. I mean, when I say these things, of course I understand what it means for millions of other black people, but it's also me personally, it's my children personally, it's my defense of my children. And I am profoundly offended that the society still assaults all three of my children that way. Profoundly offended. It makes me so angry I don't know what to do.
Really?
When you have something that is that explosive, of course, it is not going to be contained. The country I live in now doesn't bear any resemblance to the country I was born into.
Okay.
And black people are so much freer. Now, there's still this horrid thing in the ghetto. And it's, 30%, 33% of black people are still impoverished. So I'm not saying that it is nearly over. But we are so much freer of the feeling that every white person might do us damage or hurt us, and that we can't be free and expansive, or that we have to be ashamed of our color. I mean, a lot of people were strong enough and clear enough all forever who said, look, the racial problem in America is not about defects in black people, it's about defects in white people. A lot of people really understood that in their gut. But not until the 60s did large masses of black people really begin to understand that and say, hey, I have a right to be a human being. Mm-hmm. I have a right to take a deep breath,
Right.
I do not have to be judged, and I don't have to care if I take a deep breath what this white man down here says about me. And, I tell you something. In the years since then, I have had negative, stupid judgments made about me by white people. Some of them took bread out of my mouth, Some of them made me less well known. And it never really hurt me, because I really have a sense that most white people are not competent to judge me, because they don't know where I've come from. They have no sense of it. They don't know what glories are in my achievements, or in the achievements of most black people I know.
Oh, yeah.
So, I may get mad for a little while if a white person does me wrong. But by and large, I think, well, that's what you get for living among people who are kind of diminished, culturally disadvantaged,
Culturally disadvantaged. Ooh, damn, Rodger, you dropping gems like that? I mean, shit. If you really want to get down to nitty gritty of it, what is their culture when it comes to white people in America? Especially, he shot this during like the late 80s. What was their culture? What were not white people known for? You know what I'm saying? Violence, racism, mistreating minorities and black people. I mean, shit. That's kind of what gets associated with you when you are doing those things to a group of people for centuries on end. No one's going to just, whatever.
But something else has happened that I find astonishing. I saw a junk TV show the other night. And on this junk show, it was a made-for-TV movie, the romantic leads were black, which is astonishing in itself. But even more astonishing was that it showed a black man and a white woman in bed together. Just briefly, but it was no question what it was. I mean, it was not, you know, and they didn't elaborate on the scene, but they were in bed and they were hugging and
Right.
well, now, that denotes, you know, it's the edge of pushing at popular culture. I would never have thought that popular culture would have come that far. I mean, now it was one of the, I think it was probably the worst made-for-TV movie I have ever seen in my whole life. And I am not telling you that the ultimate aim of all of this stuff is popular culture that shows romantic sex between black men and white women. What I am saying is that with that as the symbol of the hated thing. Miscegenation is the hated thing for the culture I would never have thought that culture in the 20th century would ever, the for-profit culture would ever dare to show that. Now I suspect that the negative reaction to that, it was so strong they'll never show it again for another 5 years. Nevertheless, they did. I guess.
Damn. He said he thought they would never show a white woman and a black man in a bed together. I mean, I could understand it, bro. You grow up during those times and you see how far society done came from when you was a little boy to now. It's like, I can see when you living through it, it's like, fuck. Like, can I breathe? Can I exhale? And that's where the black fatigue shit came in. They tried to co-opt it as something of a negative towards black people. No, black fatigue is black people being exhausted from living in a country that's always breathing down their neck. You know what I'm saying? Just imagine yourself, you're at home. You know when you clean up something, you clean the dishes, and then your parents come in and say, oh, okay, you gonna clean the dishes for me? Or clean those dishes? It's like, bro, you don't see me already cleaning the dishes up? Why are you telling me to do something I'm already doing? Now picture that to society. Picture that to America. Black people just living their life, doing what they're doing, but you got society and you got social media breathing down your neck, telling you to do something that you already doing. You already living your life right. You already going to work every day. You already take care of your kids. But you got somebody telling you that you don't, or you got someone trying to remind you to do it. Nick, you don't got to remind me to handle my business. Do I remind you to handle your business? Do I remind you to take care of your kids? You know, they always say we need to have control of our community, but we can see what their community have been since the beginning of America. Their community has been filled with mistreating people, killing people, abusing the power they have. That has always been a part of the community, right? But we're the ones who got to be monitored. We're the ones who got to have an eye on our community, what we got going on. Make sure we're not doing nothing too crazy. All right. Okay.
It's the other thing that I wouldn't have thought. And it's the worst thing. Nobody could have told me, as I watched the community action agencies in 1970 and all the ferment, that by 1989, almost half the black kids in the United States would be growing up in poverty. If you had told me in Watts in '65 when I was there, with every government there was, the city government and the county government and the state government and the U.S. government, all saying, we're going to fix Watts. Nobody could have told me that I'd have gone back there in the '88 campaign with Jackson and Watts would be worse. That all that stuff that people said that they were going to put in isn't there.
You mean worse?
Worse. The drugs have their hands so deep in that community. And people said, they said, Jesse, don't come in. And Jesse, it's too dangerous for you to come in. But Jesse went in.
And that was what, he's talking about 89. The drugs was, and we know what the war on drugs did to the black community. This is his response in 89 to the, man, I'm trying to tell you, bro, this shit runs so deep. When you have a country that's fighting against your progress, you can feel that shit. And then you got the people that you live amongst doing little microaggressions, and then they want to play dumb. You got the overt racists. You got the closet racists. You got the ones that think they're an ally, but they don't call out the people that's perpetrating these negative stereotypes. You know what I'm saying? And then you got the accomplishes that's willing to ride and die for it, who I got respect for. You know, it's crazy, right? It's like when you really try to stand for black issues and you really stand on business behind it, you see how many people don't care about black issues. You feel me? Like, it's a constant reminder of it's always going to be an uphill battle. And the moment you stop climbing up that hill is the moment you die. Facts.
And he had a meeting with the kids' gangs in Watts. And there were kids there who were just strung out on drugs. There were kids there who had gold ropes on their necks and beepers. All of them victims of the drug business in one way or another. And they were saying it to Jesse, as they would have said to no other human being on this earth, things that were in their heart. My mind, I know it's wrong, Reverend. I know it's wrong, Reverend. But I just had nothing else to do. Reverend, another guy said, I know it's wrong. People shouldn't be using these things, but Reverend, I got to sell them because I pay my rent for my mother and I pay my rent for my aunt. Well, you know, now partly that is rationalization. You know that, but you also know it's true. That they are engaging in the only economic opportunity, and others say, "Oh, I'm all right, Reverend. I'm gonna get it together tomorrow, Reverend." And you know, I mean, these kids are just done. The hideous thing about it, the hideous thing for me that was ripping my heart, was that all these people were born after 1965. They were all born after I was there and after we were going to do all that stuff. That I would never have expected to see, and that's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking.
All right, Rodger, I promise you I'll give you a copy of this tape.
Damn. Shout out to Rodger. Shout out to David Hoffman, bro. Damn, bro. That is so crazy. You gotta think from his perspective of someone that was one of the ones leading the charge and playing a crucial part in the civil rights movement to fight for the shit that, you know, we're benefiting from now, but to also see how the government still found a way to not help the people it was meant to help with that movement. That's crazy, bro. Damn, shout out to Rodger Wilkins. Hey, man, R.I.P. Rodger. He put work in for the black community. He gonna always have my respect. Hey, let me know if y'all want me to watch more videos like this. I always love to watch the throwbacks and learn something new, to spread the good word. I'm gone, man. Peace.